this video, I'm going to show you how to play my arrangement of Michael Buble's All of Me. If you want to see it all put together and with better audio quality, check the link in the description. This is one of my, I would say, harder arrangements, but it's really fun and there's a lot of cool things that you get to do during the arrangement. So we'll just start with the intro. So just unpack that, slow it down a little bit. When you're starting, there's a couple things that I changed from the original arrangement. I don't have huge hands, so I think what's happening in the bass is you're actually doing tenths. And I don't really think I can do all of those. So I start with both hands down here, and then you just have to launch really quickly up to the octave at the top. So it's gonna look like this. You're really going to want to make sure you get that jump very quickly. So you're going to just explode from the A here. And then that allows you to do that little ornamentation at the top. And then proceed with the rest of it. You'll notice also that I split the other tenth to make it work. So slowing it down a little bit, this is what it looks like. So I cheat a little bit, but makes it so that I can get all the notes in there. Now let's go back into after the intro. Okay, so breaking this part down. This is supposed to be mimicking some of the guitar and the walking bass line that's happening when he starts the first verse. So you want to be a little bit bouncy on the right hand. A little bit like that. And the rest of it's pretty straightforward. I would say this is the easier part. It's a little bit minimalist, so the voice can come out a little bit more. The trickiest part of that is the little ending with the fast sixths in the right hand. So I'll slow that down just a little bit. So it starts. You're going to want to get in position. So again. So you'll want to lock your hand in place for that. Oops. You want to lock your hand in place and then land on that chord here. Moving on to the next section, we've got into the E major chord. All right, so to break that down, again, it starts pretty easy. We got the E major with the staccato stuff going on in the right hand. And then it gets a little bit tricky when you start switching which hand holds the bass. So I'll show you where that happens. Right here. So if we do the whole bass line, just listening to the song, what I picked out was that it goes something like this. But I thought it was easier, at least with the way that I arranged things, that the right hand just grabs a couple notes and then you go back to the left hand taking over with the bass. If you figure out a better way to finger it, let me know in the comments. So for this part you get some nice big chords. I'll slow it down just a little bit. Notice the fingering in the left hand for that part. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough fingers as you're moving around. So show you where to watch carefully. Right here. So then it's easier for you to help here. And the rest you just make sure you're moving quickly enough to get to those octaves. So we'll go on to the next section. Breaking that down a little bit. Going up here. This little ornamentation here. And then we're going down here, starting higher this time on the bass. There's a few jumps in there. I wanted to make sure I got some of that stuff that was going on with the right hand with the song. Not too excessive, but just enough to add a little bit of flair as you're getting a thicker instrumentation as you get closer and closer to the refrain. So, on to the next part. Get a little spicy. So I'll break that down a little bit for you. So you start pretty basic. There's going to be a big jump here. Making sure you got enough fingers in your left hand. And then we're switching over to thumb here, making sure you got enough. That part I'm just doing a little split note there. My fingering here is terrible, but it works. Whatever you need to do to make sure you have enough fingers to get through the chromatic line in the left hand. And then into the solo. This part, I didn't do the brassy solo that's in the original arrangement with Michael Buble. I thought it wouldn't really work super well with keyboards, so I made something that I thought fit pretty good. You can put in whatever you want in this section. If you're going to be playing it for whomever, wherever, you can be creative and add in your own thing. But I'll show you how to play what I played right here. First half of the solo. Just to get started, I'll slow it down for you at the very beginning here. I'll start with that same bass walk up. And make sure again you're watching your fingering on the left hand, so you've got enough fingers. Then with the next section, there's going to be a really quick chromatic thing you're doing with your right hand. I have to practice that a lot to keep it fresh, but I'm going to slow it down so you see what it looks like and some tricks you can do to help make that easier on your hand. So it goes like this. So slower. Next section, I'll slow it down a little bit. Watching your left hand and make sure you got the fingering right. You're having enough fingers to do all the walking. And for the little trill there, you'll need to practice that slower and over time get faster and faster until you're really comfortable with it, if you want to make it the way that I did it. I'll play the next section now, full speed, and then we'll break it down. practice a lot to make sure it stays fresh. I'm going to break it down a little bit and show you exactly what you want to be practicing over and over until you get it. And then you're ready to be moving into the low note next, that low A with your pinky finger. So it looks like this. This part, I specifically have a few minutes where I practice just this part like multiple times a week just to make sure it's still fresh. So that's what it looks like slow. So you'll notice that the pedal is a little tricky in that section. You want to make sure you're using the pedal to cover when you're jumping around a little bit so it doesn't sound staccato, but you don't want to use it too much or it's just all going to wash together. So just one more time really slow. So right here you're going to want to make sure that you go under this finger here and keep walking with your thumb. So again, right there. And you'll notice that everything's on E right now, just kind of easy to remember where you're supposed to be. And now you've got enough reach to start with the next part here. And another jump. And then you're ready for the next part. Not the greatest fingering, but it works for me. Next section. So again, we're getting into the tricky part. There's a lot of big chords going on. Slow down, looks like this. Switch over here. You're going to want to start on the thumb here. It'll make sense why in a moment. You're just going to dip over here. So. And then that allows you to go down this way. On the right hand, there's some things that are going on that are important. So. Not the best fingering, but I find that I run through it enough times and it works out for me. You're just kind of falling down the chord there. So, next section, there's a lot of stuff going on. So it starts with a big jump. You're going to want to explode off of this and be ready for that next chord there. So. Notice that in the left hand here, I'm starting with my index finger on D. It'll make sense why. Because now I can drop down here. So with the right hand, what's going on there? You just have to do that a whole bunch. There's a lot of jumping around that happens, and I really don't know a better way to finger that part. If you figure out a better way, feel free to do it. This works for me as long as I just practice it enough and keep it fresh. Move on to the next section. Another one of those parts that I find myself having to practice a lot, particularly the part with the sixths, because they're really, really fast, and there's no other way to get good at them other than just do them over and over again. So I'll slow this part down a little bit. We'll break down some important moments. pretty sloppy fingering in the left hand, but as long as you've got enough fingers to do what you need to do, I say whatever you need to do. And then this is the part that always gets me. Just make sure that you do those parallel sixths a whole lot. Get really comfortable with jumping around really fast. The reason I arranged it that way is because I think that's what's going on with the horns. And I just wanted to capture that a little bit for the arrangement. So again, slow with the sixths. Looks like this. And once you get here, everything becomes a lot easier. You can just jump around with the chords. Okay. And then of course, there's the little ornamentation that you're doing with the right hand here. Looks like this. Not hard, just repetitive. I like to practice this with a metronome to make sure it's really crisp. So moving on to the next part, the last part of the song. So, a lot to unpack there. First, you want to make sure you start out with a slightly different fingering since you're approaching that walk up from that G octave. So it starts here. And I always get stuck. If I forget to switch around properly, then I'm not able to finish the walk up comfortably. So you want to make sure that you're fingering that properly. You're going to go and just make sure that your middle finger is the one taking over the E there. Trust me, it just makes things a lot easier. And then you can finish the rest of the walk up the way you're familiar with the rest of the song. So. And then the rest of it feels very familiar. Not too different from what you've played the rest of the song. So slowing down this next part. This should feel very familiar. It's from the beginning of the song. I think this part might be different, but not really that different. Then similar here, but then it changes a little bit. We're just landing on C here instead of the G from the earlier version of this. So now onto the home stretch, the last little bit of the arrangement. Just a note about it, it sounds very different from what's in the original Buble track. I did that for a reason. I didn't think that the heavy horn ending really translated well to keyboard, so I made my own little version of it that I think ties it up in a nice bow and allows you to end with a bang. So it goes like this, broken down real slow. It's got one of those jumps. And then here's where you play yourself out. Make sure that you have enough fingers for this part. So I like to start here for that. And then the rest are just jumps. But however you want to manage that, I just find that to be the easiest way to do it. So I hope this breakdown was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching.